My brother has been stealing credit for everything I've done since we were kids. I, 28, have always been the invisible child in my family, while my brother Derek, 31, got all the praise. Growing up, I never understood why my parents treated us so differently. I'd work hard on projects, get good grades, win awards, and somehow Derek always ended up in the spotlight. It wasn't until 6 months ago that I discovered the truth, and it made my blood boil. Derek and I both work in graphic design now. I freelance from home while he works at a prestigious firm, or so everyone thinks. Last October, my aunt mentioned how proud she was of Derek's award-winning campaign for a major hotel chain. I had never heard about this. When I asked him about it later at Sunday dinner, he brushed it off like it was no big deal. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I found the campaign online. The design style looked familiar. Too familiar. I dug through my old external hard drive and found the original files. Files I had created 2 years ago as spec work for my portfolio. Files I had shared with Derek when he asked for inspiration for a project. He had submitted my work as his own and won a major industry award for it. I sat there staring at my screen until 3 a.m., my hands shaking. Then I started going through everything. Every school project he got praised for, every achievement our parents celebrated. I found my childhood notebooks in the attic, my old computer files, everything. The pattern was everywhere. The next morning, I called out sick from my freelance projects. I spent the entire week building a comprehensive digital presentation. Screenshots, dates, metadata from files, side-by-side comparisons. Everything was time-stamped and documented. I had proof going back 15 years of Derek taking credit for my work, from high school essays to college projects to professional campaigns. Our parents were planning a huge celebration dinner for Derek's recent promotion to creative director. They had invited extended family, his colleagues, even his boss. I told my mom I wanted to put together a tribute video for Derek. She thought it was sweet that I finally wanted to celebrate my brother. I showed up early to help set up. My dad had rented out a private room at an upscale restaurant. I connected my laptop to the big screen they had set up for the tribute. Everyone arrived, about 40 people total. Derek walked in looking smug as ever, soaking up the attention. After dinner, my mom announced the tribute video. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. But instead of a celebration, they watched 12 minutes of cold, hard evidence. Every stolen project, every lie. The award he won with my hotel campaign was front and center. I had included emails where he specifically asked to see my work for reference. The room went completely silent. Derek's face turned white, then red. His boss stood up and walked out without saying a word. Derek tried to explain, stuttering about misunderstandings and collaboration, but the metadata doesn't lie. His boss called him the next day and fired him. The industry award was revoked. Our parents sat me down and demanded to know why I would humiliate him like that. I asked them why they never once questioned how the kid who could barely write his own name in kindergarten suddenly became so talented. That was 3 months ago. Derek moved to a different state. He's working retail now. My parents still barely speak to me, acting like I ruined his life instead of just exposing what he'd been doing to mine. My aunt and a few cousins reached out privately to apologize for never noticing. My cousin has been copying every single aspect of my life, and my family thinks it's cute. I, 31, have spent the last decade watching my cousin Ashley, 28, systematically replicate my entire existence while my family calls it flattery. It started when we were in college. I majored in marine biology. 2 years later, Ashley switched her major to marine biology. I thought it was coincidence until she transferred to my university, joined my lab group, and started using the same research advisor. After graduation, I got a job at an aquarium in Seattle. Ashley moved to Seattle 6 months later and applied to work at the same aquarium. When she didn't get hired there, she got a job at a smaller aquarium across town. I started dating someone I met through work. Ashley started dating his roommate. I adopted a rescue dog, a German Shepherd mix named Apollo. Ashley adopted a German Shepherd mix 4 months later and named him Zeus. My family thought this was adorable. They said Ashley looked up to me and I should be honored. When I tried to explain how uncomfortable it made me, my mom said I was being paranoid and self-centered. But it kept escalating. I cut my hair into a bob. Ashley cut her hair the same way within weeks. I started rock climbing as a hobby. Ashley joined my climbing gym. I got a small tattoo of a wave on my wrist. Ashley got an almost identical wave tattoo in the same spot. Last month, I got engaged to my boyfriend, Marcus. At our engagement party, Ashley announced she and her boyfriend were also engaged. She showed off her ring, which was eerily similar to mine, just slightly smaller. That's when I decided to document everything. I went through 7 years of social media posts, photos, emails, and text messages. The pattern was undeniable and disturbing. Every major life decision I made, Ashley copied within months. I created a detailed timeline with side-by-side photos showing the progression. Hairstyles, clothing styles, home decor, vacation destinations, even the same books on our shelves arranged in similar ways. I found messages between Ashley and my aunt where Ashley asked specific questions about my life. Where did I buy certain things? What research projects was I working on? Who was I dating? My aunt had been feeding her information and thought she was helping Ashley find her path in life. When I confronted my aunt privately, she said Ashley was just trying to be more like family, and I should feel flattered. I dug deeper. Ashley had been following my Instagram stories obsessively, screenshotting everything. She joined the same professional organizations I belonged to. She volunteered at the same nonprofits. She even befriended my hairstylist and asked for the exact same cuts and colors I got. My hairstylist mentioned this once and I had brushed it off, but now it all made sense. Marcus found it creepy when I showed him everything. He had noticed Ashley copying my mannerisms and speech patterns, but thought he was imagining it. My best friend admitted Ashley had reached out to her multiple times, asking questions about me. My family was planning a big reunion for my grandfather's 80th birthday next month. Over 80 relatives would attend. My mom asked me to put together a family photo slideshow. I agreed, but created something different. I made a presentation showing the timeline of Ashley's copying behavior with photographic evidence, date stamps, and receipts showing she purchased items shortly after I did. During the reunion after dinner, the slideshow played. 7 years of identical choices displayed chronologically. The room got quieter as people started understanding the scope. It wasn't just similar interests. It was deliberate duplication of every aspect of my life, down to specific brands and models of items. Ashley started crying and ran out. My aunt accused me of bullying her daughter, but my uncle, who is a therapist, looked disturbed. He said the behavior pattern I documented was concerning and went beyond normal admiration. Several cousins admitted they had noticed things but never said anything. My grandmother asked Ashley's mom directly why she encouraged this instead of helping Ashley develop her own identity. Ashley and her mom left early. Half the family thinks I was cruel for exposing her publicly. The other half is uncomfortable with what they saw and questioning why they normalized it for so long. Marcus and I are planning to move to a different state after our wedding. We haven't told anyone where yet. Ashley's engagement ended last week. My therapist says what Ashley did constitutes a form of identity disturbance, and my family enabled it. I still don't know if the public call-out was the right choice, but at least people finally believe me that it wasn't flattery. They made me raise my siblings and now expect me to give up my life for them again. I, 30, practically raised my 3 younger siblings while my parents were supposedly working to support us. That's what they always said when I asked why I had to skip school to babysit, or why I was making dinner for 4 kids at age 11. My siblings are now 24, 22, and 19. We're close because I was more of a parent to them than our actual parents ever were. 3 weeks ago, my youngest brother Tyler called me panicking. He had been going through old documents at our parents' house, looking for his birth certificate, and found something else. Bank statements from when we were kids showing huge deposits every month. Our parents weren't struggling financially back then. They were actually doing very well. The timestamps matched exactly with the years I was told to sacrifice my childhood because they couldn't afford childcare or after-school programs. I drove over immediately, and we went through everything we could find. Tax returns showing 6-figure incomes throughout my entire childhood. Records of vacation properties they rented out for profit. Investment accounts opened during the years I was being pulled out of school activities to watch my siblings because they claimed they couldn't afford a babysitter. My parents came home and found us in the office. When confronted, my dad said the money was for our future, and they needed to make sure I learned responsibility. I was 12 when this started. I missed my childhood learning responsibility for a financial situation that didn't exist. What really destroyed me was finding an email exchange between my parents and my school principal from when I was 14. The principal had raised concerns about my absences and declining grades. My parents responded, saying I had chosen to prioritize family over school, and they were respecting my mature decision. I never made that choice. They made it for me, and then lied to the school about it. Tyler told our other siblings. We all met up without our parents and went through everything together. Turns out they had been lying about other things too. They told my sister Mara she couldn't do the study abroad program in high school because they needed her home to help with Tyler. They had enough money to send her 3 times over. They told my brother James he had to go to community college because of finances. His college fund had over $40,000 in it that they never mentioned. All 4 of us were furious. Our parents had manipulated us our entire lives using fake financial struggles while actually sitting on significant wealth. Last month they asked me to move back home to help them as they get older. They're only 55 and in perfect health. They just want someone to clean and cook for them again. We decided they needed to face what they did. My parents were planning their 30th anniversary party, a huge event with 100 guests. They wanted all of us to give speeches about what wonderful parents they were. We agreed to give a joint speech. The 4 of us stood up together at the party and delivered the truth. We brought documents, showed the timeline of their lies, explained how they stole our childhoods and opportunities while pretending poverty. We read the email to the principal aloud. We showed the bank statements next to my report cards, showing how my grades tanked because I was too busy raising children as a child myself. My mother tried to grab the microphone. My sister Mara stopped her and said they didn't get to silence us anymore. Several guests got up and left looking disgusted. My uncle confronted my dad right there, asking how he could do that to his own kids. My parents kept insisting they were teaching us values and family loyalty. Their friends have been distant since. Some relatives have stopped speaking to them entirely. My parents sent a long letter saying we were spoiled and ungrateful, that plenty of oldest children help raise siblings and we were making them sound like monsters over normal family expectations. We've all blocked them. They keep trying to reach out through relatives saying they want to reconcile, but they haven't once apologized. They still think they did nothing wrong. Tyler starts therapy next month. We all probably need it. Some days I wonder if exposing them publicly was too harsh. But then I remember being 13 years old, making school lunches at 5 in the morning because my parents wanted to sleep in despite having plenty of money to hire help. My uncle has been rehoming my rescue animals and telling everyone I'm neglecting them. I, 27, have dedicated the past 5 years to fostering and rehabilitating rescue animals. I've successfully rehomed over 30 dogs and cats, giving them second chances after abuse or abandonment. My family knows how important this work is to me. I live on a small property with proper kennels, veterinary connections, and everything needed to care for multiple animals safely. My Uncle Brian, 54, has always been vocal about thinking rescue work is a waste of time, but I never thought he'd actively interfere. Over the past year, 4 of my foster animals have disappeared. Each time, I'd come home to find empty kennels and no sign of the animal. I filed police reports, put up flyers, checked shelters frantically. My family helped search initially, but after the 3rd disappearance, people started making comments about maybe I had too many animals to keep track of. My aunt suggested I wasn't cut out for rescue work if I kept losing them. The 4th disappearance happened 2 weeks ago. A senior dog named Cooper, who had been with me for 3 months, finally recovering from severe neglect. I came home from work, and he was gone. This time, I installed security cameras before telling anyone. I reported him missing and watched my family's reactions carefully. Brian offered to help search, but made a comment about how this kept happening to me and maybe it was a sign. Something about his tone felt off. I checked the security footage from the day Cooper disappeared. At 2 p.m., Brian's truck pulled into my driveway. He had a key I'd given him years ago for emergencies. He went straight to Cooper's kennel, leashed him up, and drove away. I was shocked but kept watching footage from previous weeks. I caught him on camera checking my property multiple times when I wasn't home, looking at which animals were outside, taking photos. I started calling local shelters and rescue organizations in surrounding counties, asking if anyone matching Brian's description had been bringing in dogs. The 3rd shelter I called confirmed it. A man fitting his description had surrendered 4 dogs over the past year, claiming he found them as strays. The descriptions matched my missing fosters perfectly. They still had Cooper. I drove there immediately with my documentation proving Cooper was my foster. They were horrified when I explained the situation and returned him to me. They pulled records of the other 3 dogs. 2 had been adopted out to families in other states. 1 was still there, a beagle named Stella who had disappeared 8 months ago. I gathered everything: security footage of Brian taking Cooper, shelter records showing his surrenders, timestamps proving the dogs went missing the exact days he brought them to shelters. Adoption papers showing these were legally my foster animals, not strays. My grandmother was planning a big family reunion at her farm next weekend. Brian was supposed to be helping organize it since he lived closest to her. I called her and said I had something important to share with everyone about my rescue work. She was excited, thinking I wanted to do an adoption event at the reunion. 60 family members showed up. After lunch, I asked for everyone's attention. I explained what had been happening with my foster animals and how it had damaged my reputation in the rescue community. Then I played the security footage of Brian taking Cooper. I showed the shelter records with his fake story about finding strays. I displayed photos of each missing animal next to their intake records at the shelter. The backyard went completely silent. My grandmother looked devastated. Brian started saying I was twisting things, that those dogs were clearly strays wandering near my property, and he was helping. I pulled up the timestamps. Each dog disappeared during work hours when I was gone, and each was inside a locked kennel visible on camera. There was no way they were strays. My aunt asked why he would do this. He said my rescue work was out of control and making the family look bad, that I needed to focus on a real career. Multiple family members pointed out that I had a full-time job and did rescue work on my own time and property. Brian left with his immediate family. Several relatives apologized for doubting my capabilities. The rescue organization where I volunteer heard what happened and has been incredibly supportive. Stella is back home with me now. Cooper got adopted by a wonderful family last week. Brian is facing potential charges for theft and filing false reports with animal shelters. Some family members think I should have handled it privately, but he destroyed my reputation and traumatized animals who had already been through enough. The 2 dogs adopted out of state are doing well, according to their new families, but I'll always regret not being able to properly vet their homes myself. My stepmother has been intercepting my mail and pretending to be me for 5 years. I, 28, have always had a strained relationship with my stepmother, Linda, 52. She married my dad when I was 16 after my mom died, and we never really connected. I moved out at 18 for college and kept my distance while maintaining a relationship with my dad. What I didn't know was that Linda had been actively destroying my life from behind the scenes. Last month, I was visiting my dad while Linda was supposedly at a spa weekend with her friends. I needed to use their printer, and Linda's computer was the only one connected. When I opened her laptop, her email was already pulled up. The preview pane showed a message from my Aunt Susan with the subject line saying my name. Curious, I opened it. It was my aunt thanking me for the lovely response to her dinner invitation, but saying she understood I was too busy to visit. I never received a dinner invitation. I never sent a response. I started searching Linda's email for my name and found hundreds of messages. She had been intercepting emails sent to me at my dad's address, which I still used for some official correspondence since I moved apartments frequently. She had responded to job recruiters on my behalf, declining interviews. She replied to friends saying I didn't want to stay in touch. She even responded to my college roommate's wedding invitation with excuses about why I couldn't attend. I missed my best friend's wedding because of her. I kept digging through her computer while trying not to panic. She had been forwarding my mail from their address to a P.O. box she controlled, then sending back responses, pretending to be me. I found scanned copies of letters from my grandmother before she died, asking why I never wrote back. Linda had responded to every single one with short, dismissive messages that made me sound cold and ungrateful. There were worse things. A promotion opportunity at my old company that I never heard about because Linda declined it via email. An inheritance notification from a distant relative that she had responded to saying I wasn't interested in claiming it. Multiple attempts from my mom's side of the family to reconnect that Linda shut down while pretending to be me. I found her journal on the computer too. She wrote about how she needed to protect her marriage by keeping me distant from my dad. She was convinced I blamed her for my mom's death and would eventually turn my dad against her. So she systematically isolated me from everyone, making me seem like the one who wanted distance. I copied everything to a flash drive. Then I called my dad and told him to come home immediately. When he arrived with Linda an hour later, I was still sitting at her computer. I asked her to explain the emails. She tried to play dumb at first, but I pulled up message after message. My dad was horrified. Linda kept saying she was protecting our family, that I would have caused problems if I stayed too connected. My dad asked her directly if she had been impersonating me. She admitted it but said it was necessary. He told her to leave. I spent the next week reaching out to everyone Linda had responded to as me. My aunt was shocked. My old boss was confused because the decline email didn't sound like me at all, but she had assumed I just wanted to move on. My college roommate cried when I explained what happened and why I really missed her wedding. The inheritance was gone, claimed by another relative after I supposedly declined it. 2 job opportunities had long been filled. My grandmother's letters broke my heart, reading them. She spent her last year thinking I didn't care about her. My dad filed for divorce immediately. Linda is telling people I fabricated everything because I never accepted their marriage. Some of her friends believe her. My dad found out she had done similar things to his sister years ago, intercepting calls and messages to create distance between them. I'm working with a lawyer to see if any of this is actionable legally. My therapist says I'm dealing with a severe violation of trust and identity theft. Some family members think I should have confronted Linda privately instead of exposing her to everyone. But she spent 5 years pretending to be me, making decisions in my name, destroying relationships I valued. I don't think she deserved privacy for that. My stepbrother has been destroying my bakery business with fake reviews and canceled orders. I, 34, opened my own bakery 3 years ago after years of planning and saving. It's been my dream since I was a kid baking with my grandmother. For the first year, business was incredible. I had steady clients, great reviews, and was even featured in local magazines. Then, everything started falling apart. Orders would be mysteriously canceled last minute. Reviews appeared online describing cakes I never made, claiming I missed deliveries that never existed, accusing me of terrible customer service for interactions that never happened. I thought it was bad luck, or maybe a few genuinely dissatisfied customers I couldn't remember. My stepbrother Connor, 37, who works in marketing, kept telling me this was normal for small businesses and I just needed to push through. He offered advice on damage control and seemed supportive. Meanwhile, my savings dwindled as I lost clients and spent money on ingredients for canceled orders. Last month, a bride came into my shop furious about her wedding cake being canceled. I had no record of her order at all. She showed me email confirmation from my business address confirming her order, then a cancellation email sent 3 days before her wedding claiming I had overbooked. I never sent either message. When I checked my email account, both messages were in my sent folder, but I hadn't written them. I contacted my email provider and discovered someone had been accessing my account from a different device for over a year. I hired a cybersecurity consultant who traced the access to an IP address registered to Connor's home. I felt sick. I started going through everything with new perspective. I pulled records from review sites and found patterns. Multiple negative reviews posted within hours of each other from different accounts, all using similar phrasing. The consultant found they originated from the same location as Connor's IP address. I contacted clients who had canceled orders. 3 of them said they received calls from someone claiming to be my assistant, saying I couldn't fulfill their orders due to personal issues. I don't have an assistant. 2 clients said they received emails from my business account with quotes, triple my normal prices, causing them to go elsewhere. I found those emails in my sent folder but never wrote them. Connor had access to my business email because I had given him the password last year when he offered to help with my marketing. I trusted him. He had been logging in regularly, canceling orders, sending fake correspondence, and writing responses that made me seem unreliable or unprofessional. I found worse things. He had contacted my suppliers claiming I was closing the business and didn't need future orders. 2 vendors had stopped reaching out because of this. He had called health inspectors with fake complaints about my kitchen, causing surprise inspections that found nothing but cost me time and stress. He had even created fake social media accounts, pretending to be dissatisfied customers, posting photos of ruined cakes from other bakeries while tagging my business. My dad was planning a retirement party at a rented hall. Connor was supposed to give a speech about family legacy since he was the eldest. I told my dad I wanted to provide desserts for the party and also give a short presentation about how family supported my business journey. He was touched by the gesture. The party had 90 people, including extended family, Dad's coworkers, and friends. I provided a beautiful dessert spread and waited until after Connor's speech. Then, I connected my laptop to the projector and started my presentation. Instead of thanking people, I showed 2 years of systematic sabotage documented with evidence. Fake reviews with IP address traces, canceled orders with email headers showing Connor's device, recorded calls to vendors where he impersonated me, screenshots of the fake social media accounts he created with metadata, financial records showing my business decline matching his sabotage timeline. I included testimonials from clients explaining what had happened from their perspective. Connor tried to leave, but my uncle blocked the door. My dad asked him to explain. Connor claimed it was for my own good, that I was wasting my life on a failing business and he was trying to force me to give up and get a real job. He said my bakery was embarrassing the family and I needed to accept reality. Multiple people pointed out that my business had been thriving before his interference. My aunt reminded everyone that Connor had tried opening a bakery 5 years ago and failed within 6 months. Some relatives remembered him making bitter comments about my success. Connor and his wife left immediately. Several family members have apologized for not taking my business struggles seriously. I've regained some clients after explaining what happened. The bakery is slowly recovering, but 2 years of sabotage did real damage. Connor is facing potential criminal charges for fraud and computer crimes. My dad is devastated and seeking therapy to process his son's actions. Some relatives think I destroyed the family by exposing this publicly instead of handling it quietly. But Connor destroyed 2 years of my life's work while pretending to help me. He doesn't get privacy for that. My sister has been editing recordings of me to turn the family against me. I, 26, have watched my relationship with my extended family deteriorate over the past 2 years and couldn't understand why. Cousins stopped inviting me to things. My aunts became cold. My uncle actually told me I should be ashamed of myself at a family barbecue, though he wouldn't explain why. My parents seemed disappointed in me constantly, but deflected when I asked what was wrong. Only my sister Vanessa, 23, stayed close, which I found comforting during this confusing time. 3 weeks ago, my cousin Jordan pulled me aside at a family gathering. He said he couldn't stay quiet anymore and showed me his phone. It was a video of me at last year's Thanksgiving, apparently yelling at our grandmother, calling her horrible names and mocking her memory problems. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I never said those things. I would never speak to anyone that way, especially not our grandmother who I adored. Jordan had more videos. Me supposedly complaining about family members being burdens. Me allegedly making racist comments about my uncle's wife. Me appearing to laugh about my cousin's miscarriage. Each video was short, maybe 10 to 15 seconds, and looked like it was recorded secretly during family events. I started shaking watching them because I recognized the settings and my clothes, but not a single word coming out of my mouth. I asked Jordan where he got these. He said Vanessa had been sharing them in a private family group chat I wasn't part of for over a year. I went home and started going through everything I could think of. I found the original videos on my phone's cloud backup from family gatherings. In the real footage, I was having normal conversations. I compared them frame by frame with what Jordan showed me. Vanessa had used editing software to splice together words and sentences from different parts of conversations, making it sound like I was saying terrible things I never said. The Thanksgiving video where I supposedly yelled at Grandma was actually me reading a funny story out loud from my phone to my cousin, with Grandma's face edited in from a different angle. The audio was spliced from multiple conversations throughout the day. The racist comments were words taken completely out of context from a conversation about a documentary. The miscarriage laugh was me laughing at a joke someone told, edited next to footage of my cousin looking upset from an entirely different moment. She had done this with dozens of videos over 2 years, each one carefully edited to make me look cruel, bigoted, or heartless. I found the editing software on her laptop when I went to her apartment while she was at work. Our parents had given both of us keys to each other's places years ago for emergencies. She had folders organized by family member with source footage and edited versions. I copied everything to a hard drive. Original videos, edited versions, project files showing her editing process. My parents were hosting a big family dinner for my dad's promotion. Vanessa had been helping organize it and planned to give a speech. About 40 relatives were coming. I told my parents I wanted to give a surprise presentation celebrating Dad's career. They thought it was sweet. The dinner went normally until speech time. Vanessa gave a touching speech about family values and supporting each other. Then I got up and connected my laptop to their TV. I started with one of Vanessa's edited videos, the one of me supposedly mocking Grandma. I let it play. Then, I showed the original footage and the editing software screenshots showing exactly how she had manipulated it. I went through 5 examples, each edited video followed by the real footage and proof of manipulation. The room was dead silent, except for gasps. My grandmother started crying. My mother looked horrified. Anna tried to leave, but my uncle blocked the door and said she needed to explain herself. She claimed I was lying, that those were the real videos. I opened the project files on screen, showing every cut, every audio splice, timestamps of her edits. My cousin, who works in video production, stood up and confirmed what he was seeing was definitely editing software with manipulated footage. My dad asked Vanessa why she would do this. She broke down and said I had always been the favorite, that everyone loved me more, and she wanted them to see me differently. She said it started as a joke, but then people believed it, and she couldn't stop. The family is shattered. Half of them have apologized to me. My grandmother is in therapy processing that her granddaughter would fabricate such cruel footage. Vanessa moved to a different city. My parents are devastated and blame themselves for not questioning the videos. Some relatives still seem uncertain about what to believe, despite seeing the proof. I lost 2 years of normal family relationships because of her lies. My therapist says I'm dealing with a form of defamation and betrayal that will take time to process. My sister-in-law has been calling CPS on me to try stealing my kids. I, 33, have been dealing with Child Protective Services investigations for the past 18 months. 4 separate reports claiming neglect, abuse, unsafe living conditions, you name it. Each time, CPS shows up unannounced, inspects everything, interviews my kids, and finds nothing. Each time they close the case as unfounded. But the reports kept coming, and each investigation was terrifying and exhausting. My kids are 7 and 9. They're healthy, happy, do well in school, and have a stable home life with me and my husband Mike, 35. After the 4th investigation, the caseworker told me the reports were coming from the same phone number, but the caller always remained anonymous. She said this pattern suggested harassment and gave me the number. I didn't recognize it. I ran the number through a reverse lookup. It belonged to Mike's sister Lauren, 38. My stomach dropped. Lauren has been trying to have kids for years without success. She struggled with infertility and it's been hard on her. But she's always been good with our kids. She babysits sometimes. They love their aunt. I couldn't understand why she would do this. Then I remembered something. After the 3rd CPS visit, Lauren had casually mentioned that if anything ever happened to us, she would take the kids in a heartbeat. At the time, I thought she was just being supportive. I didn't tell Mike yet. I needed more proof before accusing his sister of something this serious. I started documenting everything. I pulled phone records showing calls from Lauren's number to CPS matching the exact dates of each report. I requested copies of the CPS reports through a lawyer. The accusations were specific and detailed, things only someone who had been in our home would know, but twisted into sounding dangerous. One report claimed my son had bruises from abuse. He had bruises from soccer practice that Lauren had seen when she picked him up from school. Another report said we left the kids alone overnight. We had gone to a wedding, and Lauren knew we hired a babysitter, but she reported it as abandonment. A third claimed our house was filthy and infested. Lauren had been over 2 days before that report when we were mid-renovation, and she saw a construction mess. She was using her access to our lives and twisting normal situations into abuse allegations. I found texts where she had asked detailed questions about our schedules, our routines, what the kids were doing. I had thought she was just being an involved aunt. Then I discovered something worse. Lauren had already consulted a family lawyer about emergency custody. I found out through a mutual friend who worked at the law office. She had been building a case, planning to use the CPS reports as evidence that we were unfit parents. Mike's parents were celebrating their 40th anniversary with a big party. 75 people were invited, including extended family and close friends. Lauren had helped plan it and was supposed to give a speech about family values. I told Mike everything the night before the party. He didn't want to believe it, but I showed him all the evidence. He was devastated. We decided to address it publicly at the party. After dinner, before Lauren's speech, Mike asked for everyone's attention. He explained what had been happening with CPS, the stress it put on our family, how our kids were traumatized by strangers investigating abuse claims. Then he revealed who made the reports. I displayed the phone records on a projector. The CPS report details next to Lauren's own text messages showing she had the information she twisted. Her consultation with the custody lawyer. Everything laid out chronologically. Mike asked her directly in front of everyone why she had been trying to destroy our family and take our children. Lauren tried to say we were misinterpreting things, but the evidence was overwhelming. She finally broke down and admitted she thought the kids would be better off with her, that she could give them more because she had more time and resources. She said she convinced herself we were actually neglectful and she was protecting them. Mike's parents were horrified. Several family members left. Our kids were at home with a babysitter but heard about it later from cousins. They were confused and hurt that their aunt had lied about them. CPS closed our case permanently and noted Lauren's harassment in their system. We filed for a restraining order. Mike's family is fractured. Some think we should have handled it privately. But Lauren had been systematically trying to have our children removed from our home through false allegations. That's not something that deserved privacy. She's in therapy now, according to Mike's mom, but we haven't spoken to her since the party. Our kids ask about her sometimes and I don't know what to tell them. My mother faked being wheelchair-bound for 7 years and I caught her walking. I, 33, have spent the last 7 years of my life arranging everything around my mother's supposed disability. She's 56 and has been in a wheelchair since I was 26, claiming she has a degenerative condition that left her unable to walk. Our entire family reorganized around her needs. I moved back to my hometown to be closer. My brother Jason, 29, gave up a job opportunity across the country. Family gatherings happen at her house because transporting her is such an ordeal. 2 weeks ago, I left work early feeling sick and decided to stop by her house to let her know I couldn't make our weekly dinner. I used my key to let myself in quietly, not wanting to wake her if she was napping. That's when I saw her. Standing at the kitchen counter making coffee, walking completely normally. No wheelchair, no walker, nothing. She was humming to herself and moving around the kitchen like any able-bodied person. I stood frozen in the doorway. She turned around and saw me. The look of panic on her face told me everything. She didn't try to collapse or pretend she suddenly couldn't stand. She just stared at me. I asked her how long and she started crying, begging me not to tell anyone. She said it started as exaggerating symptoms for attention after my dad left her, and then she couldn't figure out how to stop without everyone hating her. I left without saying anything else. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely drive. I went home and started going through everything with fresh eyes. Medical bills, she claimed, were from specialists, all from general practitioners who never diagnosed anything specific. The fancy wheelchair we all pitched in to buy her barely used based on the tire condition. I called Jason and told him to meet me. When I explained what I saw, he didn't believe me at first. Then he started remembering things that didn't add up. We started documenting everything. I installed a camera in her living room during one of my visits, hidden in a picture frame I gave her as a gift. Over 5 days, we recorded her walking around freely whenever she thought she was alone. Cooking, cleaning, doing yoga. The moment anyone arrived, she was back in the wheelchair playing helpless. Jason found her old medical records from before the supposed disability started. No degenerative condition, no neurological issues. Her current doctor had referred her to physical therapy multiple times for deconditioning, which she always claimed she couldn't afford. We checked her insurance records. She never went because there was nothing actually wrong with her. The worst part was finding a journal in her desk. She had written about how much she enjoyed the attention, how nice it was having everyone cater to her needs. She wrote about almost coming clean several times, but deciding the benefits outweighed the guilt. There were entries about family members she thought were getting suspicious, and how she convinced them otherwise. Our family reunion was planned for last weekend at a rented venue. Over 60 people were coming, including extended family who had contributed to her medical expenses and accessibility modifications for her house. Jason and I told her we had arranged special transportation for her. She seemed pleased. We arrived early and set up a projector. When everyone gathered, Mom was in her wheelchair looking frail as always. People were fussing over her, making sure she was comfortable. My aunt was talking about organizing another fundraiser for her medical costs. That's when we started the presentation. 5 days of footage showing her walking, dancing, doing activities she claimed were impossible. Medical records showing no actual diagnosis. Excerpts from her journal read aloud. The room went completely silent, except for the video playback. My mother tried to wheel herself out, but my uncle blocked the door. She started screaming that we doctored the footage, that we were trying to destroy her. My aunt, who had organized 3 fundraisers, broke down crying. Cousins who had sent her money monthly were furious. My grandmother, who had been making special trips to care for her, just sat there in shock. Several family members demanded she stand up right then and prove the videos wrong. She refused. She's living alone now. Most of the family has cut contact. A few relatives think we humiliated her unnecessarily and should have handled it privately. Jason and I don't regret it. She stole 7 years from us and thousands of dollars from people who genuinely wanted to help. My mother-in-law has been staging situations to make me look mentally unstable. I, 29, married my husband Ryan, 31, 3 years ago. His mother Patricia, 58, never liked me from the start, but I tried to build a relationship with her for Ryan's sake. Over the past year, things have gotten progressively worse. I've had strange incidents where I appear forgetful or irrational, and everyone in Ryan's family treats me like I'm fragile and losing my grip on reality. It started small. I would swear I put my keys in my purse, then find them in bizarre places like the freezer or bathroom cabinet. Ryan started gently suggesting I was stressed and should see someone. Then, bigger things happened. I allegedly sent his sister hostile text messages that I have no memory of sending. I supposedly forgot important family events I know I had written down. At a family dinner, I got violently sick, and Patricia told everyone I must have been drinking, though I hadn't touched alcohol. Last week was the breaking point. I woke up to find my car parked 3 blocks away when I distinctly remembered parking it in our driveway. Ryan found me outside looking for it and seemed genuinely worried about my mental state. He suggested I talk to a therapist. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong about all of this. I installed a hidden camera in our living room the next day while Ryan was at work. Patricia had a key to our house and often stopped by when Ryan wasn't home. The footage was damning. Patricia let herself in the day after I installed the camera. She went through my purse, took my keys, and I watched her move them to the kitchen trash. She opened my laptop, logged into my social media using passwords she must have gotten from somewhere, and sent messages to Ryan's sister. She poured something from a small bottle into my coffee creamer in the fridge. She went through my planner and used whiteout to erase appointments I had written down. I felt vindicated and horrified at the same time. I kept the camera running and collected 5 days of footage. Patricia came over 3 times, each time doing something to make me look forgetful, unstable, or unwell. She moved my medications to different bottles. She changed appointments in my phone calendar. She even took photos off our walls and hid them in my closet, making it look like I had taken them down myself. I researched what she had been putting in my coffee creamer. Based on the bottle I managed to capture on camera, it appeared to be Ipecac syrup, which induces vomiting. That explained my mystery sickness at the family dinner and several mornings when I felt inexplicably ill. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I needed Ryan to see this himself. He had been talking to his family about getting me psychiatric help. They were planning an intervention. The intervention was scheduled for Sunday at Patricia's house. Ryan told me his family wanted to talk about my recent behavior, and they were worried about me. I agreed to go, bringing my laptop with me. When we arrived, his entire family was there looking concerned and pitying. Patricia had tissues ready and kept touching my arm sympathetically. They started gently, saying they loved me and wanted to help. Ryan's sister brought up the hostile messages. His brother mentioned times I seemed confused or forgot things. Patricia talked about finding me outside looking for my car and how scared she was for my safety. They had a whole presentation prepared about treatment options and support systems. I let them finish. Then, I opened my laptop and played the footage. 5 days of Patricia systematically gaslighting me in my own home, moving things, poisoning my food, sending fake messages, erasing my calendar. The room went completely silent except for the video playback. Ryan's face went white. His sister started crying. His father demanded to know what he was seeing. Patricia tried to grab my laptop, but Ryan's brother stopped her. She started screaming that I had faked the videos, that I was trying to destroy her family. Ryan asked her directly why she was in our house doing those things. She couldn't answer. Ryan's father asked her about the bottle she poured into my creamer. She claimed it was just vitamins she thought would help me. I pulled up the research about Ipecac syrup. Ryan asked his mother if she had been poisoning me. The intervention turned into Patricia being confronted by her own family. We left immediately. Ryan has been apologetic, but also processing that his mother tried to convince him I was mentally ill. We changed our locks. Patricia has been calling and texting saying I'm manipulative and turned her son against her. Ryan's siblings are divided, some believing the evidence and others thinking I somehow set their mother up. We're in marriage counseling now, trying to rebuild trust. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I hadn't installed that camera. My mom has been lying to everyone about who's actually caring for my grandmother. I, 32, have been my grandmother's primary caregiver for the past 4 years. She has dementia and needs round-the-clock supervision. I moved into her house, quit my job to care for her full-time, and handle everything from medications to doctor appointments to bathing. My mom, 58, lives 20 minutes away and visits maybe twice a month for an hour. 2 weeks ago, I was at the pharmacy picking up my grandmother's prescriptions when I ran into my cousin Jennifer. She pulled me aside and said how sorry she was that I refused to help with Grandma's care. I was confused. She explained that my mom had been telling the entire family that she was the one doing all the caregiving, while I had abandoned Grandma and only showed up when I needed something. According to my mom's version, I was selfish and ungrateful, living rent-free in Grandma's house while refusing to lift a finger. I stood there speechless. Jennifer kept going. Apparently, my mom had been sharing stories at family gatherings about how exhausting it was caring for Grandma alone, how she had to take leave from work, how she was doing all the cleaning and cooking. She even told people she was paying for Grandma's medications out of pocket because I wouldn't contribute. That night, I checked my grandmother's medical records online. Every single appointment listed me as the primary contact and caregiver. I had documentation of everything. I decided to wait for the perfect moment. My uncle was planning a big family reunion for my grandmother's 80th birthday next month, something my mom had been heavily involved in organizing. She had apparently told everyone she wanted to celebrate Grandma while she still recognized people, painting herself as the devoted daughter, making sure her mother had one last beautiful memory. I called my uncle and offered to put together a photo slideshow for the party. He loved the idea. For the next 3 weeks, I compiled everything. Photos of me with Grandma at doctor appointments, time-stamped videos of our daily routines, screenshots of medication logs with my name, records from her medical team listing me as primary caregiver. I even included ring camera footage from Grandma's front door, showing the actual frequency of my mom's visits versus my constant presence. The reunion had over 50 family members. My mom gave a speech about the sacrifices she made for her mother, how hard it had been, but how worth it. People were crying. Then my uncle announced the slideshow. 4 minutes of undeniable evidence played on the screen. My mom's face went through every emotion possible. Family members started whispering. My aunt stood up and asked my mom directly if any of what she had been telling them was true. My mom tried to say I had edited things, that I was lying, but the timestamps don't lie. 3 cousins and my uncle approached me after, apologizing for believing my mom without question. They had all been told I was a disappointment to the family. My aunt admitted she had been cold to me at past gatherings because of what my mom said. Several relatives offered to help with Grandma's care now that they knew the truth. My mom left early without saying anything. The next day she sent a long text about how I humiliated her and destroyed her relationship with her siblings. She said I was vindictive and cruel for not handling this privately. I replied asking why she thought lying about abandoning her own mother should have been handled privately. It's been 2 weeks. My mom hasn't visited Grandma once since the party. Some family members think I went too far with the public reveal. Others have started a rotation to give me breaks from caregiving, which has been life-changing. My uncle is furious with my mom, and they're not speaking. Grandma asked me yesterday why her daughter doesn't visit anymore. I told her she's just busy with work. Some days I wonder if I should have just confronted my mom privately. But then I remember all those family members who treated me like garbage based on her lies. My father started a new family and erased me. Now he's playing victim about our estrangement. I, 27, haven't spoken to my father in 15 years. He left when I was 12, after my parents divorced, moved 3 states away, and started a completely new life. I'm talking new wife, new kids, new everything. He sent birthday cards for maybe 2 years, then nothing. No calls, no visits, no child support. My mom worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat while he built his perfect second family. A month ago, my half-sister Emma, 19, found me on social media. She had no idea I existed until she discovered some old photos in their attic. When she asked our dad about me, he apparently broke down crying and told her I had cut him out of my life as a teenager because I blamed him for the divorce. He said he tried for years to reconnect, but I refused all contact. He painted himself as the heartbroken father rejected by his angry daughter. Emma didn't know what to believe, so she reached out. We talked for hours. I showed her the last birthday card I got from him, dated when I was 14. I showed her court documents about the child support he never paid. I had emails my mom sent him about my high school graduation, my college acceptance, even when I was hospitalized with appendicitis. He never responded to any of them. She went quiet for a few days. Then she told me our dad was planning a big 50th birthday party, and she thought I should know. Emma and I stayed in contact. She was struggling with what she learned, but she also started noticing things. Their family photo wall had no pictures of me. When relatives asked about other children, he said I was his only child from a previous relationship who wanted nothing to do with him. He never mentioned that he was the one who disappeared. His birthday party was going to be huge. Over 100 people, including his wife's entire family, his co-workers, old friends, and distant relatives who had known him when I was young. Emma told me he was planning to give a speech about his regrets in life, mainly about losing his relationship with his eldest daughter, despite his best efforts. I asked Emma if she would help me. She agreed immediately. Together, we compiled everything. The timeline of his abandonment, with evidence, screenshots of my mom's unanswered emails, bank records showing 0 child support payments, photos of me at major life events he missed, each labeled with the date and whether he was invited. We even found a letter he wrote to his lawyer during the divorce, saying he wanted to minimize contact because starting over would be easier. Emma helped me get into the party. She told her mom I was an old family friend. I waited until after dinner when he started his speech about being a father and the pain of estrangement. Then, I stood up and introduced myself. The look on his face was pure panic. I calmly explained who I was to the confused crowd. Then, Emma pulled up our presentation on her phone and cast it to the TV he had been using for his photo slideshow. Every piece of evidence played out in front of everyone while I narrated our actual history. His wife had no idea about most of it. She knew about me existing, but believed his version that I had rejected him. Several of his old friends who remembered me as a kid stood up and walked out. His mother, my grandmother, who I hadn't seen in over a decade, started crying and tried to hug me. He had told her I refused to see her. My father tried to say I was twisting things, that there were two sides to every story. Emma cut him off and said she had verified everything herself. His wife asked him if any of it was true. He just stood there silent. Emma moved out last week and is staying with her mom's sister while figuring things out. My grandmother has called me every day since the party. Several family members have reached out to apologize for believing him. His wife is apparently demanding marriage counseling and full transparency about his past. My father sent one email saying I destroyed his family for revenge. I haven't responded. Emma says their house has been tense, and her younger siblings are confused about everything. Part of me feels bad for them, but mostly, I just feel relieved that the truth is finally out there. My family member has been catfishing people using my photos and personal information. I, 30, started getting strange messages on social media about 6 months ago. People I didn't know were angry with me, accusing me of scamming them or leading them on romantically. At first, I thought it was mistaken identity or spam. Then a woman showed up at my workplace demanding to know why I ghosted her after she sent me money. I had never seen her before in my life. She showed me text conversations with someone using my name, my photos, and details about my life. This person had been talking to her for 3 months, created an elaborate story about needing help with medical expenses, and convinced her to send over $2,000. The profile used pictures from my social media, my actual job title, even my hobbies and interests. But it wasn't me. I filed a police report and started investigating. I found 5 different dating profiles across various platforms, all using my photos and information. Some were running romance scams. Others were catfishing people for emotional manipulation. One profile had convinced someone to quit their job and move across the country for a relationship that didn't exist. The messages were detailed and personal, using information only someone close to me would know. I checked the locations where these accounts were active. Most activity came from my hometown. I started thinking about who had access to my photos and personal information, who knew enough details about my life to make it convincing. I hired a private investigator who specialized in online fraud. Within a week, he traced the accounts back to an IP address. It belonged to my younger cousin Maya, 25. I was stunned. We weren't particularly close, but I never imagined she'd do something like this. The investigator found evidence of at least 15 different profiles she had created using my identity over 2 years. The victims were real people whose lives had been affected. One man had been emotionally involved for months. A woman had borrowed money from her family to send to me for a fake emergency. Someone else had their identity also stolen by Maya pretending to be me, creating a chain of fraud. The financial damage totaled over $15,000 across multiple victims. I confronted my parents first, showing them everything. My mom initially didn't believe it until I showed the IP evidence and matched the timing of posts to when Maya was at her house. My dad wanted to handle it quietly within the family, maybe get Maya help and pay back the victims. I told him there were people out there who thought I was a scammer and a liar, and my professional reputation was being destroyed. I contacted several victims and apologized, showing them proof that someone had stolen my identity. Some were understanding. Others were too hurt and angry to care about the distinction. I had to change all my social media to private and post warnings about the impersonation. My aunt was throwing a surprise birthday party for Maya next month. She had invited over 50 people, including extended family and Maya's friends. I told my aunt I wanted to give a special presentation about Maya's accomplishments. She loved the idea. The party happened at a rented venue. After cake, I connected my laptop to the projector. Instead of a celebration video, I displayed screenshots of all the fake profiles Maya created using my identity. I showed conversations where she scammed people, lied about medical emergencies, manipulated vulnerable people emotionally. I included testimonials from victims describing the financial and emotional damage. I showed the IP evidence linking everything to her. I displayed the police report I had filed. The room erupted. Maya's friends looked horrified, Her mother started crying. Maya tried to run, but several family members blocked the exits, demanding an explanation. She broke down and admitted everything, saying she was jealous of my life and wanted to experience what it felt like to be me. She claimed she never meant to hurt anyone, and it spiraled out of control. The police arrested her at the party for identity theft and fraud. 3 victims are pressing charges. My aunt blames me for ruining Maya's life by exposing her publicly. Several family members think I should have kept it private and handled it through lawyers. But my face and name were attached to scams that hurt real people. Maya destroyed my reputation while hiding behind my identity. I'm still dealing with the fallout, trying to rebuild my online presence and professional image. Some of Maya's victims have apologized for the hostile messages they sent me. Others will probably never trust me, regardless of the truth. My brother has been giving me wrong dates for family events to make me look bad. I, 35, have always felt like the black sheep of my family. Everyone thinks I don't care about family gatherings because I constantly miss birthdays, holidays, and important events. I've apologized countless times, confused about why I keep getting dates mixed up. My family has grown colder toward me over the years, and my mom has made several comments about how I'm the only one who doesn't prioritize family. 2 weeks ago, my nephew graduated high school. My brother Kevin, 38, texted me the ceremony details a month in advance. I put it in my calendar immediately. The day before the graduation, I was getting my suit dry cleaned when I ran into my aunt at the shop. She mentioned how excited she was for tomorrow's ceremony. I told her I was ready for Saturday. She looked confused and said the graduation was Friday at 2. I showed her Kevin's text message, clearly stating Saturday at 3. She pulled out her invitation. Friday at 2, exactly as she said. I felt sick. I checked my other family group chat, the one Kevin wasn't admin of, and found messages about the Friday ceremony. Kevin had sent me different information privately. I went home and started going through old messages. Every single family event for the past 3 years, Kevin had given me wrong dates or times in private messages, while the family group chat showed the correct information. I started pulling phone records and old calendars. My sister's wedding that I missed, Kevin told me it was Sunday when it was actually Saturday. My dad's retirement party, wrong time and location. Thanksgiving dinner, he said 4 when it started at 1. Christmas last year, he told me December 26th. I had shown up to my parents' house on the 26th, confused why no one was there. And my mom called me later, furious that I skipped Christmas without even calling. Every missed event had a corresponding private message from Kevin with false information. The family group chats and emails always had correct details, but I never checked those because Kevin would text me separately saying he wanted to make sure I had the right info. I trusted him completely. I called my sister Emma and asked her to check something without telling her why. I asked when Dad's birthday dinner was. She said next Tuesday at 6. An hour later, Kevin texted me saying Dad's birthday dinner was Wednesday at 7. I had my proof that it was still happening. I spent a week gathering everything. Screenshots of every wrong detail Kevin gave me next to the correct information from group chats. Receipts from times I bought gifts or made plans based on his false information. A timeline showing 3 years of systematic exclusion. I found old voicemails where I apologized to family members for missing events, not knowing I had been deliberately misled. My parents were planning their 40th anniversary party. Kevin was helping organize it. He texted me that it was the following Saturday at their house. I checked with Emma secretly. It was actually Friday at a rented hall. This was my moment. I showed up Friday night with a projector and laptop. I told my parents I wanted to give a presentation about their 40 years together. They seemed touched. Once everyone arrived, about 50 family members, I started the presentation. But instead of anniversary photos, I showed 3 years of Kevin's lies side by side with the truth. Every missed event displayed with Kevin's false message and the real details. Voicemails of me apologizing for missing things I was set up to miss. text messages showing how he isolated me. The room went silent. My mom started crying. Kevin tried to say I misunderstood, that I must have confused messages. I pulled up metadata and timestamps proving every discrepancy. My dad asked Kevin directly why he would do this. Kevin claimed I was making it up, but too many people had seen the evidence. My uncle pointed out that Kevin always made comments about me not caring about family, constantly reminding everyone when I missed events. He had been weaponizing my absences that he himself created. Kevin left with his wife. My mom apologized through tears. Emma admitted she had noticed Kevin was always the one managing communication with me, but never thought anything of it. Several relatives who had been cold to me for years hugged me and said they were sorry for believing I didn't care. Kevin hasn't contacted me since. Some family members think I should have talked to him privately first, but I spent 3 years being painted as the uncaring relative. My relationship with my parents is slowly rebuilding. They feel guilty for not questioning why I kept missing events despite seeming to genuinely care. Part of me wonders what Kevin gained from this, besides making me look bad. My brother has been sabotaging my adoption applications by posing as my reference. I, 36, have been trying to adopt a child for 3 years. I'm single, financially stable, own my home, and have been approved by multiple agencies as a suitable candidate. But every time I get close to placement, something goes wrong. References come back with concerns, background checks reveal inconsistencies, applications get rejected at the final stage for vague reasons about my fitness as a parent. It's been heartbreaking. I've worked with 3 different agencies, and the pattern is always the same. Everything looks perfect until the final reference checks. Then suddenly, there are red flags. One agency told me a personal reference expressed serious concerns about my mental stability. Another said a professional reference questioned my ability to handle stress. I couldn't understand it because I carefully chose people I trusted for references. 2 weeks ago, I was working with a new agency. They called to schedule a home visit and mentioned they had already spoken with my brother Daniel, 39, who I listed as a family reference. They said he had been very helpful and forthcoming. I felt relieved that Daniel had given a good reference. Then the caseworker mentioned something Daniel supposedly told her about my history with anger management issues. I've never had anger management issues. I called Daniel immediately asking what he told them. He seemed confused and said no one had contacted him yet. That's when I realized something was very wrong. I contacted all 3 previous agencies and asked for detailed notes from my reference checks. It took some pushing and help from a lawyer, but I eventually got the information. Someone claiming to be Daniel had spoken with all of them. Someone claiming to be my friend Rebecca had provided references. Someone claiming to be my former supervisor had raised concerns. But when I contacted the real Daniel, Rebecca, and my old boss, none of them had ever been called. Someone had been intercepting reference check calls and impersonating my references. The phone numbers I provided were correct, but somehow calls were being forwarded or redirected. I checked my reference list from my last application. The phone numbers looked right, but something was off about Daniel's number. 1 digit was different. I called the fake number. My brother's wife answered. She seemed flustered and said I must have the wrong number, but I recognized her voice. I went to their house unannounced. She initially denied everything, but broke down when I threatened legal action. She admitted Daniel had been posing as my references for 3 years, giving negative reports designed to disqualify me without being obvious enough to raise immediate red flags. She showed me notes Daniel had kept, detailed scripts of what to say to each agency, calculated responses that sounded concerned but not overtly hostile. He had created fake email addresses matching my references' names to confirm contact information with agencies. He had researched adoption red flags and carefully planted doubts. Daniel and his wife were hosting a family gathering for their son's first birthday. About 60 people were invited, including both sides of the family and close friends. They had been trying to conceive for years before finally having their son through IVF. Everyone was celebrating their journey to parenthood. I showed up with printed documentation. During the party, after cake, I asked if I could say something. I explained my 3-year struggle to adopt and how someone had been sabotaging my applications. Then I revealed it was Daniel, showing the evidence of his impersonation, the fake numbers, the notes he kept, his wife's admission. The backyard went silent. Daniel's face turned red, and he tried to deny it, but his wife started crying and confirmed everything. My mother asked him why he would do something so cruel. He said he didn't think I should be a single parent, that kids need 2 parents, and he was protecting potential children from an unstable home environment. He called my desire to adopt selfish. Multiple family members tore into him. Our cousin, who was adopted by a single mother, was particularly furious. My aunt pointed out that Daniel had no right to play God with someone else's family planning. His own wife looked horrified hearing him justify it out loud. We left separately. I'm pursuing legal action for fraud and interference. The adoption agencies are reopening my applications with notes about the sabotage. Daniel's wife filed for separation last week, saying she can't stay with someone capable of this. Some family members think I ruined their son's first birthday party, but Daniel spent 3 years systematically destroying my chances at parenthood while pretending to support me. I don't know if I'll ever be approved for adoption now. The damage to my file might be permanent, regardless of the circumstances. Daniel took 3 years of my life and countless potential placements from children who needed homes. My aunt has been throwing away my late mother's belongings without permission. I, 32, lost my mother to cancer 4 years ago. Before she passed, she left me boxes of her personal items, jewelry, photo albums, handwritten recipes, and keepsakes she wanted me to have. I stored everything in my childhood bedroom at my father's house since my apartment was small. My Aunt Diane, 49, moved in with my dad last year after her divorce to help him with the house and keep him company. Over the past 8 months, I've noticed things disappearing. First, it was small items I thought I had misplaced. My mother's charm bracelet that I specifically remembered being in her jewelry box. A quilt she made when I was born. Her collection of vintage teacups. When I asked my dad about them, he said he hadn't seen them and maybe I had taken them home and forgotten. Last month, I went to get my mother's recipe box for Thanksgiving. It was gone. This box contained handwritten recipes passed down through 3 generations, notes in my mother's handwriting, stains from years of use. It was irreplaceable. My dad looked confused when I asked and said Diane might have reorganized things. When I asked Diane, she claimed she never saw any recipe box. I started really examining what was left. Half of my mother's belongings were missing. Photo albums, jewelry, her wedding dress, letters my parents wrote to each other. Everything meaningful was disappearing. I installed a hidden camera in my old bedroom without telling anyone. 2 days later, Diane went into the room while my dad was at his doctor's appointment. I watched live on my phone as she went through the remaining boxes, pulled out my mother's pearl necklace, looked at it for a moment, then put it in a garbage bag. She took the bag outside to the trash bins. I raced over and retrieved the bag before trash day. Inside were items I had been looking for. My mother's favorite scarf, a photo album from her childhood, small figurines she collected, all thrown away like garbage. I started going through my dad's trash history and found more. I pulled bags from the outdoor bins before they were collected and recovered what I could. Over 2 weeks, I documented Diane throwing away or donating my mother's belongings. She took some items to thrift stores. Others she literally threw in the trash. She did this systematically, waiting for times when my dad wasn't home. Once, I watched her take a box of my mother's books directly to a dumpster behind a shopping center. I confronted my dad with the evidence. He was horrified but said maybe Diane was just trying to help him declutter and didn't realize these things were mine. I showed him the camera footage of her deliberately going through items marked with my name, reading letters addressed to me from my mother, then discarding them. He went pale. Diane was planning a big family dinner at Dad's house to celebrate her birthday. She invited both sides of the family, about 40 people. I told my dad I wanted to show a memorial video of my mother since Diane never got to know her well. He thought it was a thoughtful gesture. The dinner went normally until I asked for everyone's attention. I connected my laptop to the TV and started the presentation, but instead of memories, I showed security footage of Diane systematically destroying my inheritance. 2 weeks of her throwing away irreplaceable items, donating my mother's belongings, discarding family heirlooms in dumpsters. I showed the recovered items I had pulled from trash bags. My mother's pearl necklace covered in coffee grounds, photo albums rescued before trash pickup. I explained that half of what my mother left me was gone, destroyed by someone who had no right to touch any of it. The room went silent. My dad looked devastated. Diane started saying she was just cleaning and didn't know those things were important. I played footage of her reading my name on boxes before throwing contents away. My grandmother started crying, asking where her daughter's wedding dress was. Diane had donated it to Goodwill 3 weeks ago. Several family members left immediately. My grandmother demanded Diane tell her what else she threw away. Diane couldn't remember everything. My dad asked her to leave his house that night. She moved out within a week. I recovered some items from thrift stores using donation records and timestamps. Most things are gone forever. The recipe box was never found. My mother's wedding dress had been sold. 3 generations of family photos are in a landfill somewhere because Diane decided they were clutter. Some relatives think I humiliated Diane unnecessarily, but she spent 8 months systematically erasing my mother's legacy while pretending to help my grieving father. I'll never get those items back, and no amount of apologies will change that. I just found out my parents have been hiding acceptance letters from me for years. I, 24, always thought I wasn't good enough for art school. I applied to 6 programs when I was 18 and got rejected from all of them. My parents seemed relieved, saying art wasn't a real career anyway, and I should focus on something practical. I ended up studying accounting, which I hate, and work at a job that makes me miserable. Meanwhile, my sister Claire, 21, is in her 3rd year at a prestigious music conservatory that my parents pay for entirely. Last week, I was helping my parents clean out their garage for a yard sale. In a box marked for donation, I found a folder with my name on it. Inside were 5 acceptance letters to art programs from 6 years ago. Full scholarships to 3 of them. Letters welcoming me, excited about my portfolio, talking about my potential. All dated from the spring I was 18. All opened, which means my parents read them and never told me. I sat on the garage floor reading them over and over. One school had even sent a follow-up letter asking why I never responded to confirm my enrollment. My parents had received that too. I checked the dates against my rejection letters. The rejections came from programs I never even applied to. My parents had forged them. I confronted my mom right there. She went pale and started making excuses about how art school would have been a waste, how I needed stability. I asked about the scholarships, and she just kept saying they did what was best. I left without another word and went straight to my apartment. I tore through old emails and documents looking for anything else they might have hidden. I found more. A rejection letter from a summer art intensive when I was 16 that I had been so excited about. I remember my parents telling me I didn't get in and being devastated. Turns out I was accepted with a partial scholarship. They had declined on my behalf. There were emails from my high school art teacher asking why I withdrew from the regional competition. I never withdrew. I had worked on that piece for months. My teacher had forwarded the inquiry to my parents' email address, which they apparently had given her as my primary contact. They had pulled me from the competition without telling me. I called Claire and told her everything. She was shocked, but then admitted something I'll never forget. When she was applying to music schools, our parents helped with everything. They paid application fees, drove her to auditions, edited her essays. For me, They said I needed to handle it myself to learn responsibility. Now I understood why. I spent the next 2 weeks gathering everything: screenshots, scanned letters, email records. Then I made copies of it all and invited my extended family to Sunday dinner at my parents' house. I told my parents I wanted to announce something important about my career. They seemed pleased, probably thinking I was finally accepting my accounting life. 20 relatives showed up: aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandparents. After dinner, I stood up and thanked everyone for coming. Then I handed out folders to each family member containing copies of everything: the hidden acceptance letters, the forged rejections, the withdrawn applications, all of it laid out with dates and explanations. My parents tried to interrupt, but my uncle told them to let me finish. I explained how they had systematically destroyed my chances at pursuing art while fully supporting Claire's music career. I showed them the scholarship offers I never knew about, worth over $200,000 combined. My grandmother started crying. She had been the one who bought me art supplies growing up, who always encouraged my talent. She had asked my parents several times why I gave up on art, and they told her I just wasn't good enough to make it. My aunt, who works in arts education, was furious. She said some of those programs were incredibly competitive, and that kind of acceptance rate was remarkable. My parents kept saying they were protecting me from disappointment and instability. My grandfather asked them point blank if they would have done the same to Claire. They couldn't answer. Half the family hasn't spoken to my parents since. Claire called me last night saying she feels guilty about her education now. I told her it's not her fault. My parents have been sending me texts saying I'm ungrateful and that public humiliation was unnecessary. I'm looking into whether any of those programs still have openings or if I can reapply. 6 years feels like a lifetime to have lost. I just discovered my mom has been sabotaging every relationship I've ever had. I, 29, recently got engaged to my boyfriend, Mark, 31, after dating for 2 years. He's the first relationship that's made it past the 1-year mark since college. My track record with dating has been horrible. Guys would seem interested, then suddenly ghost me or break things off with weird excuses. My mom always said I was just picking the wrong men and that I should focus on my career instead. Last month, Mark and I were at my parents' house for dinner when his phone rang. He stepped outside to take the call, leaving his phone unlocked on the table. My mom grabbed it and started typing something before I could stop her. I asked what she was doing, and she said she was just checking the time. When Mark came back, she handed him the phone with a smile. That night, Mark seemed distant. The next morning, he asked if we could talk. He showed me a text message that had been sent from his phone to his ex-girlfriend while he was outside. The message said he missed her and wanted to meet up. He knew he didn't send it because he was on a call. The timestamp matched exactly when my mom had his phone. I felt sick. I started thinking about every relationship that had fallen apart. My college boyfriend who suddenly said I was cheating. My ex who claimed I sent his mom horrible messages. I went to my mom's house the next day while she was at work. I knew she kept old phones and computers in her office closet, something about not trusting cloud storage. I found 3 old phones, all still charged and functional. I spent hours going through them. What I found made me want to throw up. Years of messages sent from fake accounts, emails to my exes from addresses pretending to be me, saying awful things. She had created fake dating profiles using my photos and information, then messaged guys I was seeing to make it look like I was cheating. Screenshots of conversations where she pretended to be my friend telling my boyfriends that I was just using them or that I had STDs. There was even a folder on her computer labeled with my name. Inside were detailed notes about each person I dated, their insecurities, their triggers, exactly what to say to make them leave. She had been systematically destroying my relationships for over a decade. I copied everything onto a flash drive. Then I called my dad, my aunt, and my 2 younger sisters. I told them I needed them all to meet me at a coffee shop, that it was urgent and about Mom. When everyone arrived, I showed them everything without explaining first. I wanted their raw reactions. My dad went pale. My sisters started crying. My aunt just kept saying she couldn't believe it over and over. My youngest sister admitted that Mom had done something similar to her once, convincing a guy she liked that she had a criminal record. She thought it was a one-time thing and never told anyone. My dad called my mom right there and told her not to come home until they talked. When she arrived at the coffee shop, she saw all of us sitting there with my laptop open. She tried to play it off, saying I was being dramatic and that she was just protecting me from men who weren't good enough. My dad asked her to explain the fake profiles. She couldn't. They're getting divorced. My mom is telling her friends that I turned the family against her over nothing. My sisters and I aren't speaking to her. Mark and I are still engaged, but he's nervous about having her anywhere near our lives. My dad found a good therapist and is working through everything. I tracked down a few of my exes and apologized, showing them what really happened. 2 of them were understanding. One told me my whole family is crazy and to never contact him again. Some days I feel guilty about exposing everything so publicly to my family. Other days I'm just angry about all the years she stole from me. I finally told my family exactly why I won't be attending my sister's wedding. I, 26, have spent my entire life being told to step aside for my sister Rachel, 23. It started small when we were kids, but it became a pattern that shaped everything. My parents always said Rachel needed more support, more attention, more everything, because she was sensitive. I learned to make myself smaller to keep the peace. The breaking point happened 2 months ago. I had been accepted into a graduate program overseas, something I had worked toward for 3 years. It was a huge deal for me, a fully funded research position that only 5 people worldwide get each year. I was supposed to fly out for the orientation week, which included meeting my advisor and setting up my entire project. My parents knew about this for months. 3 days before my flight, Rachel announced she moved her engagement party to that same week. Not the wedding, just the engagement party. My mom called and said I needed to postpone my trip because Rachel would be devastated if I missed it. I explained this was impossible, that I would lose my spot in the program. My dad said if this program really wanted me, they would understand family comes first. I went anyway. Rachel cried. My parents didn't speak to me for weeks. I missed dozens of calls and texts about how selfish I was. When I finally answered, my mom said I had always been jealous of Rachel, and this proved it. That's when I started keeping a list. I went through old emails, text messages, photos with timestamps. Everything I had sacrificed for Rachel over the years. My 8th grade graduation because Rachel had a dance recital the same night. My high school awards ceremony because Rachel was nervous about a test the next day and needed Mom there. My college acceptance celebration dinner got canceled because Rachel broke up with her boyfriend. My 21st birthday party was postponed indefinitely because Rachel didn't feel like celebrating that month. It went on and on. I had missed my own grandfather's funeral because my parents made me stay home with Rachel when she said crowds made her anxious. I found out later she went shopping with friends that same day. The wedding invitation arrived last month. She wants me to be a bridesmaid. My mother called to discuss dress fittings and said she knew I would do the right thing this time. She mentioned how much it would mean to Rachel if I gave a speech about what a wonderful sister she's always been. Something inside me snapped. I sent a group email to my entire extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, everyone invited to the wedding. I attached my documented list with dates, screenshots, and a simple explanation of the pattern. I ended it by saying I wouldn't be attending the wedding and wanted everyone to understand why. The fallout was immediate. My phone exploded with messages. Some relatives were angry at me for airing dirty laundry, but others, especially my aunt and grandmother, called to apologize. They said they had noticed things over the years but assumed I was okay with helping my sister. They had no idea about the things I had actually missed. Rachel called me crying, saying I ruined everything. My parents showed up at my apartment demanding I send a retraction email and apologize. I refused. My dad said if I didn't fix this, I would no longer be welcome at family events. I told him that ship had already sailed. The wedding is in 2 weeks. Half the guest list has sent private messages saying they understand my decision. A few have even declined their invitations. My grandmother uninvited my parents from Sunday dinners until they apologized to me. Rachel keeps posting vague things on social media about fake family members and betrayal. I'm still not going to the wedding. My parents haven't spoken to me since that day at my apartment. Sometimes I feel guilty about the timing, but mostly, I feel lighter than I have in years. Everyone thinks my dad was an amazing father, but he's rewriting our entire childhood. I, 34, just found out my dad is being honored by his company as their Family Man of the Year award recipient. He's been giving interviews about work-life balance and the importance of being present for your kids. The local newspaper even did a feature about his parenting philosophy. Reading it made me physically ill because none of it is true. My mom passed away 5 years ago from cancer. She raised me and my brother Kyle, 30, almost entirely by herself. Dad worked long hours, sure, but even when he was home, he wasn't really there. Mom handled everything from homework help to soccer games to staying up all night when we were sick. Dad showed up for maybe 3 of my basketball games total in 4 years. I remember that specifically because it was so rare. Since Mom died, Dad has been slowly rewriting history. It started small at her funeral when he talked about all the sacrifices he made to be a present father. I was too grief-stricken to process it then, but it's gotten worse. He tells people he coached my teams, helped with school projects, taught us to drive. None of that happened. Mom did all of it while working part-time as a nurse. Last week, I visited him and saw a draft of the speech he's planning to give at the awards ceremony. He's dedicated it to Mom, but the stories are all wrong. He's claiming he took us camping every summer. We went camping twice, both trips organized entirely by Mom. He wasn't even there for one of them because of work. I called Kyle and read him the speech. He was silent for a long time before saying he'd noticed the same thing. Dad had been telling his girlfriend that he was a stay-at-home dad for our early years. That's completely false. Mom stayed home with us while Dad climbed the corporate ladder. Kyle admitted he'd been feeling crazy because Dad's version of events was so different from what we actually lived through. We decided to put together a counter-narrative using evidence. I still had Mom's old planners where she meticulously tracked everything. Doctor appointments, school events, activities, all in her handwriting with notes about Dad missing things due to work. I had my old report cards with teacher conference notes, all signed by Mom. Kyle found boxes of photos in Mom's storage unit, thousands of pictures she took documenting our childhood. Dad appeared in maybe 5% of them. The award ceremony was scheduled for 3 weeks away at a hotel ballroom. 400 people, including executives, employees, and families, would be attending. Dad had invited extended family and told them all to come celebrate his dedication to fatherhood. My aunts from Mom's side called me excited to attend, saying how wonderful it was that Dad was finally getting recognition for stepping up after Mom got sick. That's when I knew we had to act. We created our own presentation using Mom's planners, photos, and a timeline of our actual childhood. The night of the ceremony, Kyle and I arrived early. We talked to the AV tech and explained that we had a surprise tribute video for our dad. He was happy to help. The evening went as planned with dinner and several speeches. Then they introduced Dad for his award acceptance. He gave his speech, full of fabricated stories about his hands-on parenting. People were moved. Some were crying. Then the AV tech announced that Dad's children had prepared a special tribute. The lights dimmed. Our presentation started with a simple title, The Real Story. We showed Mom's planners side by side with Dad's claims, photos of Mom at every event he said he attended, teacher notes about Mom being the only parent who showed up. We included audio clips of old voicemails Mom left Dad begging him to come home for important moments. The room went dead silent. Dad stood up and tried to stop it, but it was too late. The presentation ended with Mom's own words from a journal entry about feeling like a single parent. Dad's boss looked horrified. His girlfriend walked out. My aunts were openly crying, but not happy tears. Dad hasn't spoken to us since. He kept the award but resigned from the committee that gives it out. His girlfriend broke up with him. Some of his co-workers have been cold toward him. Kyle and I don't regret it. Mom deserved to have her story told correctly.